Hey everyone, it's Nathan, TransMidwife here. This is a celebration video because I have recently surpassed 1.5 years qualified. Very exciting, big milestone. Yeah, so 18 months. It's been an interesting 1.5 years, let me put it that way. Firstly, I want to say that no matter what, I have always found being qualified to be easier and better than being a student. Even if I'm going to talk about some hardships that I've been through in the 18 months, but always there's been an overarching kind of theme that it's better and more positive and fulfilling than the ups and downs and nervousness of being a student, and I'm going to go into that. So I want to start with, half of you probably know this story, but yeah, so I qualified, I don't know if I can say where. I qualified far away because I wanted to go to uni and go on an adventure somewhere different from home. And then while I was at uni, I had my children. So then when I was getting to the end of my course and starting to think about, where I was going to work, I was thinking, yeah, I want to relocate back home. So that was a big movement. We had to find a school and a house near the school, and then I had to get a job in the right place. I got the job offer first, then found the perfect school, then found the house, and then it all kind of fell into place, and it was good. And we got a van and we moved everything. Anyways, so yeah. So I started my job, as most of you know, in quite a small unit. It's about 3,000 births a year, and a lovely little unit with a really great preceptorship lead midwife. So your preceptorship is roughly a year. It can be like as kind of short as maybe 6 months if you're really hot on it and you're in the right unit that allows that, to about 2 years. That's the rough time period of the preceptorship. It's where you're usually paid as a band 5, and you have another book of skills that you kind of need to get used to and have witnessed and supported while you're a newly qualified midwife. And then when you've got them all signed off, you kind of graduate from your preceptorship and you're given your band 6 role as a midwife. And a lot of midwives stay at band 6 for quite a long time. Quite happy there. Anyways, you can look up more of that on Google, So I went to this little unit, great little trust, and an amazing preceptorship midwife. So that's a midwife who looks after the preceptors, makes sure they're hitting their targets and getting things signed off in a timely manner, and also that the learning opportunities are there. And they had this really nice program where we'd meet just every 1 to 2 months. The preceptors would meet for a training day and for a kind of emotional splurge and supportive talking, and that was fantastic. We just all cried every time. But it's not always bad crying, it's just there's a lot of growth and a lot of experiences, and so sometimes you just have to blare in front of people who know how it feels, and that's all good. So yeah, let's start with my first week. So when you're in your brand new job, you're usually on some kind of orientation program. So mine was a good, I forget now, a month of orientation, and I was supernumerary, which means that they book the correct numbers of midwife onto a shift, and then you're extra to that so that you can get used to how things work, the computer systems, the note systems and all that stuff, without the pressure of kind of the responsibility of looking after someone. So that was really positive. First couple of weeks, I started on a major high. I was so excited to not to have a pin, to have my own pin, and be able to sign, you know, a drug chart, be able to sign a set of notes, and not need a counter signature. It was really weird feeling, and I didn't get over it for ages, and I kept like. And I'd write like RM5 on the notes instead of ST/MW, you know what I'm talking about. And that was just amazing. So yeah, I was on this big high, and I was very aware that I'd come to a new trust. So I knew that people didn't expect me to know everything. So that was kind of like a safety net, a very comfortable safety net. So I really enjoyed that part. And I felt very safe and very supported. Everyone was so willing to answer questions, and I really felt like part of this new team, and everyone wanted to meet me, and yeah, it was nice. And I would say that golden period lasted maybe 2 or 3 months, and then there was a definite shift in month 4 where I felt like my colleagues and kind of the managers and matrons and everything were starting, sorry, it's my cat there, they were starting to expect, come on Floyd, and show the camera, look at my new kitten, it's Floyd, he's lovely, hello. Mwah. So yeah, they were starting to expect me to kind of find my feet a bit more and be like looking after someone, making a plan, explaining the plan. He's going to pull the phone off. No. Explaining the plan and, you know, getting on and doing it and being just a bit more confident in my decisions. And unfortunately, this was a time where I was starting to really need, so I was still in the closet at this point, and I was presenting female and no one knew at work, and kind of was starting to really notice, expecting to fit into a very certain social way of being, which is just the feminine social way of being, and notice that when I didn't fit into that, how people responded. And so dysphoria was getting really heavy, and no one knew about it, so my performance at work really suffered for that. But there was another thing going on, which was simply that I trained in this massive trust with 7,500 births a year. And the consequence of that, and also we had this labour ward, and then upstairs we had a midwife-led unit, and it was an opt-out system. So women who were low risk, or people who were low risk, just automatically went up to the birth centre, and then if they needed, you know, help from downstairs, they would move, including epidural. If they wanted epidural, we'd just transfer downstairs. But the consequence of that was that the labour ward was insanely high risk. You know, there was no one there that were low risk. It was all very complex. And also incredibly busy. Like the emergency bell went off 5 times in 1 hour. So that was intense. And what that meant as a student was I didn't feel that there were certain things that I'd never been given the reins for. So as a third year, for example, I never had the opportunity to practice doing that, doing certain things on my own. I'm going to throw an example here as a diabetes management. So someone with diabetes in labour. I'd never done that on my own with a mentor watching me. I'd only watched the mentor do it, right? And if I'm not doing, I'm just watching, I can't remember stuff. So when that came to me being qualified and on my own, there was a lot of the really kind of high risk care management that I had missed out the learning for a little bit. And I think compared to the students coming from the trust that I was in, who had a lot of hands-on with everything that went on in labour ward, I was a bit behind. So I was a bit behind, and I had emotional stuff going on, the constant battle of being in the closet, basically. So between 4 and 6 months, I made some I didn't make mistakes. It was just that I was really nervous and really second guessing everything and never going for it and never making confident decisions and never asserting myself. And I was constantly needing guidance. And yeah, so that was personal confidence and skill confidence. And the matrons started to pick up on that. And so some of them felt that way, like I needed more help, and some of them apparently didn't, but it didn't matter. What happened was the matrons alerted my preceptorship lead, and oh no, Floyd, no, damn it. Ha, la 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 la. Sorry. Okay. The matrons and managers, I ended up going on a performance review when I was about 6 months into my preceptorship, which means that there were concerns that I wasn't cutting it. And yeah, so I went onto this performance review, and it wasn't, I mean, it was a big deal, actually. It was tough. It really pushed me to the absolute limit, being on a performance review that soon into being qualified, because it obviously brought up a lot of feelings about, can I do this? Am I good enough to do this? And I really didn't think so. It involved a month of extra supernumerary time, which was meaning working very closely with another midwife, and it was mostly the same midwife, and it also meant doing a lot of reflection stuff and some writing on some things that had been highlighted, so reflecting on specific stuff that I'd struggled with. And the most valuable thing by far was working with the other midwife and really getting to, because this midwife is amazing, like so methodical, and so she's so used to labour ward and so good at it, and so logical and methodical, like I say, and so to time, like she was never late for anything. And yeah, so she watched me like a hawk, gave me some fantastic tips, and helped me to just take it that step up. And then towards the end of the performance review, so I kind of had a month and a bit with her, and then I had a bit longer where I was being more closely kind of kept an eye on by the matrons, and towards the end of that, I came out, and this big crescendo of, I've hidden this forever, I tried to come out, I failed, I went back in, and a lot of it was connected to midwifery, because I felt like I had to be feminine in midwifery in order to make it, in order to be accepted, because that was how it felt as a student a lot of the time. So all of this came falling out, and at the same time this performance review was coming to a close, and I'd found out, you're going to be okay, that this is going to be the end of it. And my confidence started to climb, and I started to be sort of understood. It was understanding, really, from the people around me, because when they don't know why you're uncomfortable in yourself, they just can't gauge what's going on. So once they knew, even if I was still uncomfortable, at least they knew. And then yeah, I could stop being, more me, and that was great in the work environment. And just focus on the work. So dysphoria is really frustrating because it just won't go out of your mind. So if it's that bad, like, you can't think about work. So that was what was going on. I couldn't think about it. Anyway, so massive kind of breakdown, absolute I don't know, you know, people who do tarot cards, they always think this is like this, the lightning struck tower is one of the cards, and it's where everything comes tumbling down, crashing around your ears, and then there's a breath of fresh air, the new dawn, and you can start to rebuild. And that's what happened. I had to let everything crash and burn. This identity in midwifery that had been there for so long just had to go, and I had to beat it with a stick because I tried to be me, and then I'd go back in. It was horrible, and I'd come out and go back in, and it's really hard to explain what that means, but it was like so hard to explain. It's like, okay, so I'd feel normal, and then suddenly I'd do something really fake and feminine, and I'd go, what the fuck's that? That's not me. And that was happening all the time until eventually it stopped happening. It's like slowly stopped happening. Well, this video is getting a bit long, sorry. So yeah, that was the big hurdle, and I honestly considered leaving. I went to a training course about being an independent midwife because I was hurt and confused and stressed out of my fucking mind. But I'm so glad that I kept with it, and I'm so glad that I got through it, because actually it taught me a hell of a lot, and I think it forced me to be myself, because it was do or die. It was come out, get over it, or you can't do this. I can't be a midwife and not be me. Midwifery is too raw. It's too part of your soul, and I just had to give it up and be honest with everyone. So yeah, that was the big bit. I'm very conscious that my phone's gonna stop recording this, so I am gonna pause here after the big crescendo and make another video. So that was the first 8 months of qualifying.